Alright guys, so we're on the chapter 4 assessment breakdown, and we've already discussed conditional statements, distance questions, parallel lines transversals, angle side match questions, and polygon sum questions. Now let's talk about the 4 side angle side or side 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 or other theorems that prove congruency between two triangles. And if you notice, we had 4 of those questions on the assessment. Here we have a question, and here's the given. They told me that angle M is congruent to angle N, and I see that here by these two congruency arcs. They also tell me that segment LO is congruent to PO, and I see that here by these congruency dashes. LO is congruent to PO. And then they want me to prove that triangle MOL is congruent to triangle NOP. So they want us to prove that these two triangles are congruent. And they say which one of these reasons will be appropriate. And they give us a missing reason here. Well, what's the first thing that you notice about this image? Don't even look at the bottom, just notice, what do you know about these two angles here? Well, you know that this angle here and this angle here are vertical angles. You know that these are vertical angles. And with that information, you should be able to proceed forward with finding the solution. By the way, notice what you have here. Angle, angle, side, side, angle, 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 side, side, angle, angle, which is one of our theorems for proving congruency. Next, we have another figure. And they tell us in this figure, AC and BD bisect each other. Okay, so I know that AC and BD cut each other in half, which means then if they bisect each other, if BD bisects AC, that means that this part of the segment is congruent to this part. And if AC bisects BD, that means that this part is congruent to this part. Notice that I put 1, 1, and 2 and 2. Notice how these are not the same, because then I will be saying that these are isosceles triangles, and nowhere in here does it indicate that I have isosceles triangles. But I need to say I need to show that these two segments are congruent to each other, and these two segments are congruent to each other in different ways. Then they ask me, well, what theorem could I use to prove that triangle AED is congruent to triangle CEB? Well, what do we know about an image like this? Well, the first thing that should come to our attention is that these are, again, vertical angles. And with these two sides and vertical angles, we should be able to use one of our theorems to prove that these two triangles are in fact congruent. Next, we have a triangle, an image that looks like this. And the question states, what additional facts prove that triangle RST and ZXY are congruent? What additional information would I need to prove that? Well, I know that these angles are congruent. And the first thing that I would probably do is, well, I would do this. I would say that this side here is congruent to this side here, and I would probably say that this side here is congruent to this side there. Looking at that, that's one of my rules, isn't it? Side, angle, side, side, angle, side. And I would see which one of the criteria fulfill helping me complete that. If we look here, take a look at this. It says RS is congruent to ZX. I'm sorry, let's take a look at this one here. RS is congruent to ZX. Okay, so RS is congruent to ZX. Okay, that looks like it makes some sense. But then you look at this choice here, it says at the second part of the choice, it says RT is congruent to ZY. Okay, RT is congruent to ZY. But then I would have an angle, a side, and a side. And we know what that spells. Angle, side, side. We know there's no angle, side, side rule. So right away, you know that doesn't make any sense at all. And just by looking at this picture, you should be able to know what theorem or what rule helps you prove congruency. Finally, it says in the figure below, they told me that XW bisects YZ. Well, here's XW, and it's bisecting YZ. Well, it's bisecting YZ. If this segment is bisecting YZ, then I know that this part of the segment is congruent to this part of the segment. And I also know that XW is congruent onto itself. And then I also know that if this is 90 degrees, well then that this is also 90 degrees. And with this information here, I'll be able to figure out which one of these statements is in fact true. Okay? And those are the side angle side, 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 and other theorems.